everyone. Let's talk about writing effective paragraphs. So we've been reading paragraphs, and in Unit 2, we're going to start writing paragraphs. So a paragraph is a series of sentences about one main idea or point. We usually refer to the sentence containing the main idea as the topic sentence. So when we read paragraphs, we look for the main idea. We look for the topic sentence. And when we write paragraphs, we need to create a topic sentence that will express the overall main idea we're trying to communicate to our readers. So the rest of the paragraph is made up of body sentences that support the main idea in the topic sentence. These sentences can explain the idea further or give examples to prove that it is true. And according to Anchor and Moore, there are 4 basic features of a strong paragraph, and these are a clear topic sentence that includes a clear topic and a controlling idea. So remember, when we looked for a main idea, we looked for a topic and a point the writer wants to make about that topic. So when we're writing our own paragraphs and our own essays eventually, we will want to have paragraphs with topic sentences that include a topic and a controlling idea or the point we want to make. The second feature of strong paragraphs is detailed examples that show, explain, or prove the topic sentence is true. Also, a paragraph has a logical organization with ideas joined together so readers of the paragraph can move easily from one idea to another. And we're going to talk about making sure that our paragraphs are unified a little bit in this PowerPoint. But we're going to talk about organization throughout the entire semester. We're going to look in each unit at a couple of different methods for organization, including narration, description, comparing and contrasting, explaining a process, describing a cause and effect relationship. And these are all basically organizational patterns you can use as you write paragraphs and essays. So we're going to spend the entire semester talking about different types of organizational patterns. And then the last thing you should have is a concluding sentence that ends the paragraph appropriately. So let's talk about the topic sentence first. So a topic sentence has a topic and controlling idea. It is the first step to writing a strong paragraph. And the topic sentence should not be these 4 things. So when you're writing your topic sentences for your paragraphs, you should try to avoid these 4 things. So your topic sentence should not be an announcement of the topic. So you should not say something like, I will talk about my Ford Fusion in this paragraph. Well, don't announce you're going to do something, just do it, right? So that is not a good topic sentence, X. But what if I said, there are many reasons I'm glad I purchased a Ford Fusion? Well, that is a good topic sentence. The topic there is my purchase of a Ford Fusion, and the controlling idea or the point I want to make is that I'm glad I purchased a Ford Fusion. So the topic is I purchased a Ford Fusion, and the controlling idea is I'm glad I did. Also, so this gets that gets a check. Yes. So also your topic sentence should not be too broad. So you shouldn't say many people have problems with their cars. Well, that might be true, and the subject is cars. Maybe the controlling idea is that many people have problems, but really it's just too big. This is too much for you to try to prove in a paragraph or even a short essay. So you need to be a little bit more focused. So many people have problems with their cars. That's just too big. It's too big of a topic. You need to narrow it down a little bit. So I'm going to say X on that one. But I could say instead, I hate my Ford Focus because of the many issues I've had with it. Okay, well, now this is something that I could write in a paragraph because I'm only talking about my experiences, one person's experiences with a certain type of car. So I could talk about this in a small paragraph or an essay. So, yes, that gets a check. So, at the same time that you shouldn't be too broad, you should also not be too narrow because then you will not have much to write about. So, I might not want to use something like Jose started college this semester after being away from school for 20 years because there's not really too much I can say after that, right? There's not really a lot that I could say that would prove that. You just need to, look at his schedule or watch Jose as he goes to class. So that's a little bit too narrow. But what I might say, so I'm going to say X on that one, but what I might say is that Jose doesn't let fear get in the way of his ambitions. So I could, after that, excuse me, after I make that topic statement, or topic sentence, after I write that topic sentence, I could list all the ways that Jose has been afraid before, but he's overcome that fear when it got in the way of things that he wanted to do or progress that he wanted to make. And in fact, I think that Jose started college this year after being away from school for 20 years would be a supporting sentence for that topic sentence. He doesn't let fear get in the way of his ambitions. For example, he started college this semester after being away from school for 20 years. That's definitely something that might make someone fearful, but he overcame that fear. And so I say here, often narrow statements work better as support for a main idea, and that's just the case in these two sentences. You also do not want to be focused on more than one topic. So I wouldn't want to say daily exercise can help the mind stay alert and healthy eating adds weight loss. Those are two different ideas. I'm talking about exercise and healthy eating. I'm going to talk about exercise in one paragraph, save healthy eating for another paragraph. So that would not be a good topic sentence. But daily exercise can help the mind stay alert. Just focusing on one of those two topics in the previous sentence, this one is now a good topic sentence. And then I could talk about all of the ways or all of the exercises that you can do to help your mind stay alert. Okay, so what I would like to do now is I would like for you to get out your journal, and I'm going to show you some topic sentences, possible topic sentences, and I want you to determine whether each is an appropriate topic sentence. If it is, then I want you to tell me what the topic and controlling idea is. And if not, I want you to explain why it is not a good topic sentence or an appropriate topic sentence. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you these one at a time. And you can write a little bit in your journal. If you need some more time, go ahead and pause this video as you write in between each topic sentence, okay? So let's look at the first one. And then at the end, I will have you, before we look at the first one, let me also explain that at the end, I will have you go or answer some questions online. And then after that, we will talk about each one of them individually. And I'll tell you my thoughts about them. All right, so the first one. I want to talk about the increase in the divorce rate. And remember, if you need more time to write, you can pause the video. Okay. What about my apartment is a terrible place to live? What about push ups and sit ups are a part of my morning exercise routine? All right. What about video games take mental skill and they are coming down in price? What about sports are violent? And finally, my grandmother saves things most people would throw out. Okay, write about those in your journal. If you need more time, you can pause the video. But I want you also to answer some questions that I have for you online. And then after you answer those, we will talk about each of these. Okay, so I hope that you have talked about or you have answered the questions online. Let's talk about each one of these. So I'm going to rewind a little bit. Okay, so what if we want to talk about the increase in the divorce rate? And I'm going to pull out my pen here. So I want to talk about the increase in the divorce rate. This is not a good topic sentence, excuse me, because it's an announcement. It's announcing your topic. The topic is the increase in the divorce rate. So this would not be a good topic sentence because you don't need I want to talk about. You just need to say, the divorce rate is increasing. Well, that might be a good topic sentence, but as it stands now, it is not. My apartment is a terrible place to live. I think this one is okay. I think this one is a good topic sentence. The topic is my apartment, and the controlling idea is that it's terrible. It's a terrible place to live. So, in this paragraph, I'm going to talk about all the things that are wrong with my apartment or all the things that make it a horrible or terrible place to live. Push ups and sit ups are part of my morning exercise routine. I don't think this one is a good topic sentence either because it is too narrow. There's not much else you can say. There's not much I can say to extend that push ups and sit ups are part of my morning exercise routine. There's not much I can say to prove that. You just have to watch me every morning to see if I do push ups and sit ups. So there's not really a lot more I can say there. So that is too narrow. Video games take mental skill and they are coming down in price. Well, this is not a good topic sentence because it deals with two different topics. I have video games take mental skill and they're coming down in price. That's two different things. It would be better if I broke this up into two topic sentences for two different paragraphs. What about sports are violent? That is just too broad for a topic sentence. Um, Maybe you could say, narrow it down to one type of sport. Um, but as it stands now, it's just too broad. Not a good topic sentence. And my grandmother saves things most people would throw out. So this would be a good topic sentence, I think. The topic would be my grandmother, or the topic might be my grandmother saves. So my grandmother's saving habit would be the topic. And the controlling idea, what I want to say about that is that she saves things, the things that she saves, most people would throw out, right? So my grandmother's saving habits would be the topic, and I want to the point that what she saves, most people would throw away. All right, excellent. Let's move on. So the body sentences of the paragraph should all relate to and support the topic sentence. Anchor and Moore identify four basic characteristics of good supporting sentences. They say that good supporting sentences should relate to the topic sentence. You must be careful not to include any information about your topic not relevant to the controlling idea from the topic sentence. Irrelevant information will weaken your support and may even confuse readers. They might think, well, where is this coming from? This doesn't seem to relate. Like, for example, if I say, my grandmother throws out or saves things most people would throw out, and then somewhere in my paragraph, I talk about how she loves to go to church on Sunday and always dresses so nicely. Well, that really doesn't fit. That may be true about my grandmother. That may be something that I want to say in another paragraph or another writing, but that really doesn't support the main idea or the topic sentence that she saves what most people would throw out. That's a totally different topic there. So, also, good supporting sentences should tell your readers what they need to know to understand your point. They should use details to show, explain, and prove your main point. It is important to use enough strong, specific evidence to support your main idea, or your reader will not be convinced. And they also should not just repeat the main point, but further explain it. So if you have sentences that say the same thing as your topic sentence, you can get rid of those and add some more sentences in that extend that and explain it further. Now, number three, I think, is important because you need to use very specific details. Whenever you can be more specific or describe something very concretely, concretely means that you're not just describing something as beautiful, for example. If I say the day was beautiful, then I'm using an abstract word. Beautiful is an abstract word, and it can mean different things to different people. But if I want to convey that the day was beautiful, I might use that even, I guess, as my topic sentence. The day was beautiful. And then my supporting details, as number three tells us, they need to be very specific and very strong. So I might say the sun was shining and the sky was blue. There was a warm breeze in the air. Birds were flying overhead. Flowers were growing in the field I was walking in. So those are all very concrete things that I'm describing that will indicate the day is beautiful. The day is beautiful doesn't really work as a supporting detail because it's not specific enough. So watch out for that. So, according to Langen, specific details provide solid support for a point. Thin and vague details do not. The day is beautiful versus the sky was blue, the birds were singing, the sun was out. Those are all concrete things that you can imagine. You can't really imagine beautiful. If I say, oh, this woman was beautiful, how do you imagine beautiful? If I say this house was beautifully decorated, for example, how do you imagine that? You imagine it by thinking of concrete things. So in your paragraphs, when you're writing, maybe say in your head, this lady was grouchy, but then think, or this man was grouchy, or this kid was badly behaved or something. But in your mind, think about, why did you say that? Why do you think that? What are all the things that make you believe that? And use those instead of just those abstract terms. Those abstract terms you can't, or words you can't picture. I can't picture grouchy. There's nothing out there that's grouchy. What I can do is I can picture various things, various behaviors, and various maybe appearances, like someone who has a scowl on their face or someone who yells. Those are things that are more descriptive than just the word grouchy. So what I want you to do is consider the two paragraphs below, and I want you to tell me which paragraph has specific details that clearly show the writer's point. So let's look at each of these paragraphs. I'll let you read them, and then I'll ask you to choose, and then we'll talk about them. So here's paragraph A. It can be costly to maintain a house. It seems like there's never a month that goes by that something major doesn't break down and must be replaced. And the cost of appliances these days isn't cheap. As if that weren't enough, I've had a problem with a squirrel finding its way into the basement and causing damage. It caused me time and money to get the squirrel out of there and to see that it didn't happen again. In winter, the heat, it should be heating bills. So let me show the heading bills. I don't know what heading bills are. So the heating bills. Okay, here we go. In winter, the heating bills are astronomical because the temperature outside is often below freezing. With all the expense, I still prefer owning a house to living in an apartment. All right, that's paragraph A. Let's look at paragraph B. It can be costly to maintain a house. Excuse me. It can be costly to maintain a house. This past spring, my dryer broke. Since it was over 20 years old, I had to buy a new one. After that, the water heater broke and had to be replaced. Whoever typed this, i.e. me, didn't do a very good job of proofreading it. Sorry about that. Had to be replaced, which put me out about $600. As if that weren't enough, this past fall, a squirrel crawled down through the chimney into my basement and began chewing the insulation. I had to pay for someone to trap the squirrel, replace the insulation, and put up a mental grate over the chimney so no more squirrels could get in. And in winter, I wind up paying at least $200 for gas. Still, I enjoy owning a home and wouldn't want to go back to living in an apartment. So which paragraph, paragraph A or paragraph B, had more specific details that clearly show the writer's point? I'll let you make your choice, and then we'll move on. Okay, clearly it's paragraph B, right? Paragraph A talks about things in a very vague way. It just says that a squirrel got in, causing damage, and it caused me time and money to get the squirrel out of there. But we actually hear the entire story of the squirrel in the second paragraph. The squirrel got in through the chimney. He began chewing the insulation. So that's the damage that was caused. And instead of it just cost me time and money, Here's what actually had to happen. I had to pay for someone to trap the squirrel, replace the insulation, put up a metal grate over the chimney. So clearly it was paragraph B. So let's talk about unity and coherence. If all body sentences in a paragraph work together to support the topic sentence, with no details included that do not directly relate to the main idea, we say that paragraph has unity or is unified. As Langen suggests, each time you think of something to put in your paragraph, you should ask yourself whether it relates to your main point. If it does not, then leave it out. Save it for something else. Coherence is also vital to a strong paragraph. Knieve and Warner state in a coherent paragraph, the relationship between ideas is clear. The paragraph flows smoothly. So that's what coherence means. It means that your paragraph flows smoothly. The reader is with you every step of the way because you have guided the reader through. So there are two ways to ensure your paragraph is coherent. One way is to pay attention to the order you use to arrange your ideas. And the best way to do this, the best way to arrange ideas is, well, it depends on the type of paragraph you're writing. And we're going to write several types of paragraphs this semester: narrative, example, description, process, compare and contrast, cause and effect, classification, definition. And we will talk when we write each of those paragraphs about the best ways to arrange ideas for each type. But there's a second way that you can ensure coherence in your paragraph. And you don't really, I don't really need you to know or remember the word coherence. What you just need to make sure you remember is that your reader needs to be guided through your paragraph, and you need to help them every step of the way. So the second way to guide your reader is to use transitional words and phrases. Transitions are bridges between what has been read and what is about to be read. So transitions are things that link ideas together. Okay. Transitions help readers move from one sentence to another. And this chart below provides a list of common transitions organized by purpose and paragraph type. And really, you can use any transition in any paragraph, but these are some suggested transitions that work best in these different paragraph types. So we have transitions whose purpose are to introduce additional points. So if you've said one thing and you want to say another similar thing, I might say, for example, frogs are amphibians. Similarly, I don't know, newts are amphibians as well, or something like that, right? So if you want to add on to what you've already said, you might use those first transitions. If you want to identify an opposing viewpoint, you might use however, although, even though, despite. So in that case, what you're saying is, here's what I've said, but on the other hand, and on the other hand is one of those transitions, on the other hand, you can think about it this way. So my house has many problems. Nevertheless, I would rather live in a house than in an apartment. So notice how that is connected to opposing ideas. You might think that I would not want to live in my house because it has so many problems, but I actually do. If you want to show cause and effect, you might use because, as a result, for this reason. If you want to indicate sequence or time, you'll of course use first, second, third, and so on, next, finally, eventually. If you want to show place, you might say above, across, around, before, beyond. And notice that the time, to indicate a sequence or time, that is going to be, those words are good for narration. And the showing place words like above, across, around, before, beyond, those are good for description. And description and narration are the first two paragraphs that we're going to write. So you might want to refer back to this PowerPoint presentation, you could in fact probably print this page off and just keep it with you so that you have some transitions that you can use. If you want to move from general to specific, if you're making a general statement and then you want to show some specific ideas, you might say, for example, for instance, and if you want to show importance, you might say first, last, mainly, more important to begin with, etc. All right. So Knievy and Warner warn, transitional expressions can help give your writing coherence, but don't overdo them because the result can make writing sound artificial and stilted. Stilted is sort of it's formal, but sometimes we want to write formally. But if it's stilted, it's so formal that your individual style doesn't shine through, and it might actually turn readers off if you're stilted. You want to be formal. You don't want to use slang unless you're using it for effect. You want to use correct grammar for standard written English, but you don't want to be so formal that you don't connect with the reader because the reader is put off by your stilted language or your formal language. And you don't want to sound artificial. You want to sound like you're sincere. You basically, when you write, you're having a conversation with the reader. That's the way I like to think about it. And you want to sound not very, very casual, but you do want to sound conversational. You want to make readers feel like they're your friends, that you're sharing some information with. Okay, so let's talk about concluding sentences just for a bit. The concluding sentence should remind the readers of the main point and make a comment based on the information provided in the paragraph. You can use the concluding sentence to express a personal opinion on the support you have included, but you should not introduce a new, unrelated idea in it. Concluding sentences are more important for standalone paragraphs. When you're writing a longer piece like an essay, concluding sentences are not as important at the end of each paragraph. You generally have a concluding paragraph at the end of an essay that's important. So use these guidelines when you're writing a longer piece of writing. And the guidelines say some guides advise you to end each paragraph with a specific concluding sentence, in a sense, to treat each paragraph as a kind of mini essay. But that's not a widely held convention. So people who write professionally do not always say that, yes, that's what you should do. That's something that writing teachers sometimes teach, but it's not really how the real world works. Most well-written academic pieces don't adhere to that structure. The last sentence of the paragraph could certainly or should certainly be in your own words, as in not a quote, but as long as the paragraph succeeds in carrying out the task that it has been assigned by its topic sentence, you don't need to worry about whether it has a last sentence that has an air of conclusiveness. Now, if you're writing just a paragraph like many of you will be doing, make sure you sort of end that with a note of finality. But if you're in an essay, you don't have to make sure that you have these very striking concluding sentences for each paragraph. Sometimes you just write the paragraph and move on to the next paragraph, right? Sorry about that. All right. Now, what I have for you here is a collection of activities, and what I want to do is go over these with you, give you a chance to respond, because you will have a worksheet that will ask you to respond to some items that are like these activities, okay? So let's go for it then. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to consider the two groups of sentences below. Each group could be developed into a paragraph. I want you to determine the topic sentence in each group and ask yourself which is. I want you to determine the topics. I got ahead of myself a little bit, sorry. I want you to determine the topic sentence in each group. So to do that, what I want you to do is ask yourself, what is a general statement supported by the details from the other sentences. Okay, so let's look at the first one. So it says, the last time I ate at the diner, I got food poisoning and was sick for 2 days. The city inspector found roaches and mice in the diner's kitchen. Our town diner is a health hazard and ought to be closed down. The toilets in the diner often back up and the sinks have only a trickle of water. So, which one of those is a general statement that seems to be supported by the details of the other sentences? So, I think that it is C. If you chose C, I think that you chose correctly. Let's look at another one. In early colleges, students were mostly white males. Colleges of 2 centuries ago were quite different from today's schools. All students in early colleges had to take the same courses. The entire student body at early schools consisted of only a few dozen people. So I think that the topic sentence is B, because it generally says that 2 centuries ago schools were quite different than today. So in early colleges, they were mostly white males. Well, now we have females and people of all races and nationalities. All students in early colleges had to take the same courses. Not everyone takes the same courses today. And the entire student body consisted of only a few dozen people. That's different than schools today. Even small schools have thousands of people. I think we have at our school totally, I think about 2,500 to 3,000 students each semester. So that's certainly different than colleges of 2 centuries ago. All right, what about these exercises? So for each group of sentences below, I would like for you to write an appropriate topic sentence that is supported by the details provided. Okay, so what about this one? The details are, when we brought a welcome to the neighborhood present, the family next door didn't even say thank you. The family never attends the annual block party. The family's children aren't allowed to play with the other neighborhood kids. Our neighbors keep their curtains closed and never sit out in their yard. So think about a topic sentence that each of those statements prove. All right, you could have had several different topic sentences here, but something about how maybe the new family or the family next door, maybe that they're rude, or they keep to themselves or something like that. What I chose was, the new family next door does not fit into the neighborhood very well. That is certainly proven by all of those supporting sentences. All right, let's look at one more. We had to wait over an hour, even though we had a reserved table, or even though we had reserved a table, excuse me. Our appetizer and main course arrived at the same time. The server ignored our requests for more water, and the wrong desserts were served to us. Okay, for this one, you might have said something like, the meal was terrible, or we did not have a good experience at dinner. What I said was, the new restaurant in town is not managed very well. Those are all things I think that could happen when you have something that's not ran very well or managed very well. Notice that this paragraph, none of the supporting details talked about the food, so it wouldn't be that the restaurant was just horrible. The food might have been delicious, but it is not managed very well. All right. So we also want, if you remember, our paragraphs to be unified, to have unity. And they are unified when every supporting sentence proves or helps to convince the reader that the topic sentence is true. So, what I want you to do is read these paragraphs below, and I want you to determine which sentences should be eliminated to keep the paragraph unified. So, let's look at this first one. I'd rather rent a movie and watch it at home than go to the theater. So, that is the topic sentence. Some really spectacular movies are worth seeing on the big theater screen. At home, I can wear my pajamas and cuddle up with a blanket. People in theaters are often noisy and distracting, excuse me. I like to be able to pause the movie if I want a bathroom or snack break. Video stores are rare these days, as most people can get movies directly on their TVs. So, think about this one. I'm going to get my pen here. Uh, so, this is all about how I would rather rent a movie than go to the theater. So, some really spectacular movies are worth seeing on the big screen. Well, this is something that is in opposition to my topic sentence, right? So I'm going to get rid of this. This does not prove the topic sentence well. It actually says the opposite. There are movies that are only worth seeing on the big screen. That actually says the opposite. At home, I can wear my pajamas. Yes, that proves that I would rather watch it at home. Cuddle up with a blanket. Yep. People in theaters are often noisy. Yes, that's why I want to watch things at home. Good. And distracting. I like to be able to pause the movie. But then video stores are rare these days, as most people can get movies directly on their TVs. Well, this basically doesn't have anything to do with rather renting a movie than watching it in the theater. It deals with renting movies, right? But it says that people don't go to video stores anymore. They just get them directly from their TV. They have on demand or they have a streaming service or something. But that's not in support of this thesis statement. All right, let's look at another one. There are advantages to taking online college courses rather than attending classes on campus. Parents with small children don't need to hire a babysitter if they access an online course at home. Students who take online courses aren't able to interact socially with other students. Because there is no commuting to online courses, students can save time and gas money by learning at home. Students who take online courses need to be extra careful not to fall behind on assignment deadlines. And in general, degrees from traditional colleges and universities are still more respected than degrees from online schools. Now, there's a lot I think that doesn't belong here because what we're saying in our topic sentence is that there are advantages to taking online courses. Okay. So, students who take online courses aren't able to interact socially with other students. That sounds to me like a disadvantage. Or maybe it's an advantage if you don't want to interact socially with other students. But to me, that sounds like a disadvantage. I'm going to get rid of that. And then also, students who take online courses need to be extra careful not to fall behind. Well, that's not really an advantage. So I'm going to get rid of that. And then telling a student that your degree may not be, if you take it from a school that offers online courses, it may not be as respected as your degree if you take it from a school with in-person classes. That is definitely not helping support my topic sentence. So I'm going to get rid of that one too. All right. Here's just a list of references. And if you have any questions, as always, just let me know.